Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new, my name's Maddie. I'm a product designer currently working in food tech. This is kind of a part 2 to the vlog that I posted most recently on my channel. Check that out if you missed it. There were lots of questions that you guys asked me about my typical day in the life or week in the life as a remote product designer. And I didn't get to answer all those questions throughout the vlog, so I wanted to make a little part 2 that's more of a Q&A for us to chat through some of these questions. So let's just dive right into the first one. One of the most frequently asked questions is just simply, what are some of the tasks that I have to do on a weekly or daily basis with my job? So a little background, they started me on a different team at Lunchbox than I actually ended up on. And the reason was because this particular team helped me get kind of acquainted with the product before I actually joined the customer usability team, where I do more product work. On the first team, it's more of an onboarding team of designers that takes the overall product and themes it or brands it for each client. So that helps me get a much better understanding of what the product even is for the first couple months that I was working at Lunchbox. And now I actually am on the team that I was hired for, which is the product team, specifically the customer usability pod. So with that in mind, the tasks that I do on a regular basis fall into a couple different categories. First is residual work from that first team I was on. When I joined that team, there was a lot of change going on for onboarding, and so there are a lot of different efforts that we are still currently working on to make the onboarding process more smooth for designers, PMs, and clients. So that's one category of work, the onboarding or delivery work. The second category is features. So what you would probably expect for a product designer to design is new features that are being added to our product or improvements that we're making to user flows and things like that. And at any given time, I probably have 2 or 3 of these going on. Another thing that I spend just a little bit of time on here and there is design QA. So I'm in charge of the quality assurance for just UI for clients that are about to go live. What this entails is really just looking at the build, looking at the Figmas, comparing those two, and tracking any issues in a QA spreadsheet. Those 3 categories probably make up the majority of the tasks that I do on a day-to-day basis. And of course, there are like tiny tasks that fall within those categories that I will not bore you with. The next question that I got a lot was, how do I collaborate with my team at Lunchbox? Like most tech companies, we use Slack very liberally. We use it to DM each other, and of course we have a bunch of different channels that is basically just every combination of people that might need to talk to each other on a daily basis. We use Jira for project management, which is mostly something that's used for development tickets, but we also use it as designers as well. We use Google Drive to hold assets and also keep track of some other things and communicate with each other through spreadsheets and just Google Docs. Of course, we use Figma and Figma commenting. And of course, for synchronous communication, we use Zoom. I would say on average, I have about 3 to 4 meetings a day. And I say on average because I could have 6 or 7 meetings one day and 1 or even no meetings another day. Usually Friday is a pretty light meeting day. So yeah, besides just the inevitable Zoom fatigue, I haven't had any issue with that. The next question is about time management, and I could make a whole video about this if you guys want. Please leave any time management questions below. But for this video, I'll just give you my #1 tip for time management that really works for me. Have a daily to-do list, and the thing that works best for me is to do, and that's because it's so simple. You guys have probably heard me talk about it 1,000 times, but I really do stand by it. The reason I love it is because you can schedule to-dos for, different days. Like, I'm making it sound confusing. It's so simple. It's literally just Monday and then a list, Tuesday, a list, Wednesday, a list, and you can move things around and add things. So sometimes if I know that something is due on a certain day, maybe it's even 2 weeks from now, I just, toggle over to 2 weeks from now and put a reminder on that day or the day before or a task or something that I need to do. So you can use it as a long-term planning system, but what I love it for is just waking up, looking at my computer, looking at my to-do list and my calendar to see what I have to do that day, what empty slots in my calendar that I have, like what time blocks I actually have available to complete those to-dos, and sort of just planning that out in my head at the beginning of the day. I don't necessarily time block, but I do sort of in my own head look at those to-dos and look at my calendar and sort of decide when I'm gonna do what. That would be my number one tip. The second thing that I would say for time management, and this really helps with procrastination and overwhelm, and that is to use the chunking method. And the chunking method is a process where you really just look at one big overwhelming project and you chunk it down into really digestible tasks. And those are the things that I put on to do on my daily to-do list. So instead of just writing work on this project, whatever your project might be, actually chunk that project down into what tasks need to be completed and in what order or whatever. Even do user flows for this project might be too big of a task. Like that, at least to me, is really overwhelming. So think about what user stories you have, and even say something like wireframe 2 user stories in this time block. That is so much more digestible and so much less overwhelming than, if you just write down whatever the project is called and say, work on this today. You really don't know exactly what you need to do. It's all about specificity. So the more specific you can get, the more likely you are to actually make progress on a project during like whatever time block you have. The next question is, what do I do when I run out of inspiration? And to be honest, this isn't something that I run into at work, and that's not because I always am so inspired. It's just because I don't really need inspiration for the work that I do. I don't know, maybe that sounds bad, but the type of work that I do is all improving something that already exists or adding features based on business goals or what clients are asking for. So there's very little work where I need like a spark of inspiration or an idea. Like if I don't understand how to solve the problem, there's always enough there for me to like go looking for something similar that exists in another like ordering platform, or ask my colleagues, what they think the solution is. Like there's very rarely a time when I'm sitting there and I'm just like, I have no idea. Usually it's more about kind of puzzling things together than it is about thinking of a perfect solution, if that makes any sense. However, I would say that I have a completely different answer when it comes to my side projects and inspiration for YouTube videos, social media content, and just other things that I like to experiment with on the side. I would say when I'm not feeling inspired to like create videos or write a newsletter or whatever it might be, that's probably a sign that I need to take a break. And throughout the time that I've been on social media, I've been really kind of patient with myself and I've given myself breaks. I'm not the type of person where I can say, oh yeah, I've posted a video every single week for the last X amount of years. Like that's just not realistic for me personally. If I'm not feeling inspired, maybe it's just a time in my cycle when I need to rest, or even a time where I need to consume a little bit. Like, oh, I just want to, for fun, watch YouTube videos and then organically get inspired. Or maybe I need to stop consuming if I feel overwhelmed, and if I start to feel like I'm comparing myself to other people, that's when I know I need to stop consuming and just, give myself a break or start creating for the sake of creating and not for the sake of sharing. Those are just some ideas and just some things that come to mind in terms of inspiration for other things other than my day job. Going back to my like daily and weekly tasks, a couple people wanted to know like who assigns me my tasks. So a couple different people, I would say, more process related things and projects. I report to my manager, who's the director of product design, and that's generally who I report to. Like, that is my manager. But for most product work and features that we're working on, that kind of stuff is decided by, you know, higher ups on the product team, and then it trickles down to my product manager. So we have a product manager for each kind of pod. Like I mentioned, I'm on the consumer usability pod. So that is basically the pod that governs like the guest experience, so like the actual ordering of the food, as opposed to like the client experience or anything like that. I basically just have weekly syncs with my product manager, me and the other designer on the pod, and we'll split up our work accordingly. And yeah, that's how it works. Okay, last question I'll answer is about Figma plugins. I had to go and take a picture of the plugins that I use. So the first one is Autoflow. And for Autoflow, basically all it does is it helps you create like user flows. So you just click on an element, and then I can't remember the shortcut, but you like, I don't know, control click on the second element and it will add an arrow in between those two. It's really simple, but yeah, it's just kind of a nice little shortcut. The next one I use all the time is Clay Mockups 3D. Very self-explanatory. It basically just takes your screen and puts it into a mockup, and you can change, you know, what device it is, what color the device is, and different like angles that the device kind of is displayed at. It's pretty cool. Find and replace. You can like search for a certain word and then replace it. So what we do is we have the word client name, and then we will find and replace that and actually add whatever the client's name is. So say it was like McDonald's or whatever, we would just search for client name and within this plugin and replace it with McDonald's, so that everywhere on the entire project it would switch to McDonald's. It's just a really nice shortcut. I have Instance Finder. I don't use that often, but you just can search for different instances of different components. Stark I use to measure color contrast. And the very last one is Style Organizer. So that's really good because you can see it, like on any given page, it will show you what styles, what text styles and color styles are being used and like what library it's pulling from. So you can kind of clean up your styles on each page using that. But yeah, I don't use a whole lot of plugins, as you can see. So if you have any suggestions for Figma plugins, feel free to leave them in the comments. All right, guys, I feel like I've been talking for so long. So I am gonna end the video here. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this Q&A. I'll see you guys in a future video. Bye.